Hey everybody, how's it going? Um, Feels like it's been a long time no talk. Anyway, I'm sorry things got delayed. My son had his appendix out last week, which is interesting. He's 20, but don't get afraid. Don't be alarmed. So anyway, my wife went up a week and a half ago to help take care of him, and then I wanted to go see him. He's doing fine. He's up and around, the whole thing. We watched the hockey game together, all good. But still wanted to go see him because this is something that well, it's a lot to go through, surgery and all that. Um, so anyway, I am a little bit late in doing things. Some of you have gotten back your megalomania assignment, and also I'm actually taping this on Monday night. So, um, as you know, by the time you'll see this, the deadline has passed for that assignment. Um, so I would just say that I'm sure you got it in. I was actually pretty pleased with what I saw so far with that assignment, but there's no question that like if you didn't try to contact Bill early on, then you're probably left with an R. So just letting you know. As some of you have really kind of bug, not sorry, not bug, basically, I appreciate the feedback and the trying and all that, but well, a bunch of you have tried to really like try to get like answers out of me, and I can't. It's like this is almost like about as close to a test as we get, and it's almost like imagine like there's just like this test out there with all these questions, and it basically asks you like what happened here, what happened here, what happened here, and your job here is to fill it, fill or answer those questions. I mean, it is one of you even asked me if you have a copy of one that actually worked, and I mean that would be like giving away the answers. It's not like the COVID mass mandate reaction story we did, where we would get all sorts of different material. Um, so anyway, so that's that story. I mean, you have another week. Giving you a week from Tuesday, which would be November 2nd, right? November 1st. I'm sorry, November November 1st. Yeah. Anyway, November 1st to actually get that story done. The rewrite I'm talking about. Of course, if you didn't get an A, and so far what I've graded, I've only seen one A so far, but um, basically, if you don't get an A, you should rewrite it anyway. Um, so anyway, so anyway, like I said, I like the work that was done, but if you haven't contacted Bill, you got to do that right away. You're gonna get it like I said before. I even gave away the answers in the last lecture, so it's kind of a way of keeping track, of who's paying attention, who's not, and some of you, I could tell, and I buried it kind of deep in the lecture, so it was kind of a way of also me kind of checking to see if you're watching the lectures. I have to admit, sorry, evil thing to do. Um, all right, so this week we have the data journalism assignment, which is something that's actually required of writing for media students to do. Um, this is where we get like, I mean, I would say the megalomania assignment is actually investigative in itself, but this is where we actually have like a real investigation, if you want to call it that, and basically the whole idea that numbers matter. Okay, you might remember that way back from the from the worksheets, and I kept saying, yeah, numbers matter. Well, there was a reason why I was doing that. It was because that's what data journalism is, and we are in this more reporting end of the semester now, so I want you guys to really kind of like concentrate on making sure you get the right information, and you're gonna have to again do a little bit of digging. This digging shouldn't be as hard, but it is like what you would call like a story that goes beyond the typical story, and we do this assignment because also it's a very popular assignment on the internet. It's where basically you don't necessarily reveal the newest thing, but you identify the newest trend of something. It's basically the way the internet is working, right? The digital media works since the beginning, and that's any digital media, anything, even going back to the wire services that um, you can do things now that you couldn't do a long time ago, and that is you can identify trends, you can put things together, you can use formulas, you can use Excel, you can use Microsoft Excel, you can use computer programs to put things together with charts and all sorts of things. And it's not just sort of what your assignment's going to be is actually on the trend of Rutgers tuition increases. And it's not just going to be like reporting on the latest increase. You want to like go beyond that and show people like what is the trend of increases. You know, how many times has Rutgers raised tuition in the last 5 years, basically, and show that trend. Okay. Um, so that's what the story is going to be about. It's going to be about a trend. And it's going to be, and the trend is actually how many times has Rutgers raised tuition increases. And the way to do that is to basically have a story where you have to like dig up information and come up with the numbers. Okay. And it requires you to basically, a lot of times when news organizations do these stories, they actually put together charts and that sort of thing. They show a bar graph, that sort of thing. If you take digital media with me, we'll be doing more of this kind of thing where we actually do graphics and stuff like that, to show the trends beyond, like, in a graphic sense as opposed to just a written sense. Um, so anyway, so let me actually go to the. By the time, like I said, by the time you'll see this, you'll see the assignment actually posted as well. So right now I have it in draft mode. Okay. All right. So sorry, just let me get. It's getting all stuck. All right, here we go. All right. It's going really slow here. Oh boy. So, and I haven't. Oh, geez, I had my in-person class. Sorry about that, guys. All right. It basically it's the same thing, but I'm going to have a discussion point, which they won't have, because they're going to be in person and they don't have to worry about, you know, reaching out to people. And it's a lot easier when you just have to talk to people who are inside the room. So anyway, let's show what we got here. Assignment ends. Things. Like I said, this is actually the teacher version, so it's not going to be the way it appears for you. But you got until November 1st to actually rewrite the Megalomania press release. Okay. All right. And then here is the data journalism assignment. So you are to incorporate elements of data journalism into a story that focuses on Rutgers tuition. The details of assignments are below. Assignment is below. Okay, so it's typically in data journalism, the story is very, very similar to stories we've already done, with the main theme identified in the lead identifies the trends. It's all about, like, once you get a little more experience in reporting, you actually are able to do stories with layers. Stories that actually additional, and like I said, something that goes beyond the one perspective story, but just maybe has like multiple perspectives. And so what that layer would be, not just like the latest tuition increase, but essentially, what is the trend of latest tuition increases at Rutgers? So the ensuing graphs provide. So it's not just that's not just so that's essentially will be the lead of your story, is like what that's going to be. And the ensuing graphs will provide context, explanation, reaction. Okay, much like the stories we've already done, essentially. Okay, so what I have here is some links to some stories of examples, examples of stories that where we do that, and we actually did this a lot for Patch. We would actually, these were like the most popular stories. We would actually list all of the school districts. This was this one system where they would actually grade the school districts, and oh boy, I'm really like having a hard time with the computer. Oh, here we go. And we would, and people love this stuff. I know it's actually kind of like it's rather like ugly to read and all this stuff. It's all black and gray and white, and it's not exactly the most colorful thing, but people love this stuff. And why do they love this stuff? Because they want to see where their school is placed. They want to see if they're getting a bang for their buck for their, for what they're doing, for what they're paying in their taxes and that sort of thing. See, Marine Academy, these magnet schools are always at the top of the list. Clark's Mill, you have to scroll down a little bit to see the schools actually really like Oradell, and this is all New Jersey, by the way. Oradell and Bergen County is up high. It's like considered a rich, wealthy school district. Okay, Princeton Charter School, Cherry Hill. Oh, sorry, Cherry Hill. Sorry, that's a charter school. And so yeah, then you scroll down. You basically almost like do like Command F and basically search for your school and see where it is. Baker Middle School. That's where my daughter went to middle school. So anyway, and these again are the top, um, top. Well, I don't know. I guess these are the five. These are probably a lot of schools actually. So I don't know, even remember what I did. I think it was like the top 100, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, um, so what this story also contains, though, is like not just the list, but basically it has like a little bit of context what this is all about. Okay, first of all, it tells you like what this ESSA thing is about, and this is actually the grader. Okay, this is the system. It's not SATs we're talking about. We've done SAT lists too. Okay, but this is the thing that actually like basically graded the schools, and is required by the federal government to do so, and it's supposed to be used as a barometer to basically kind of like let the schools know whether they should improve or not. And the old Parks scores, I don't know if you guys remember that, but those, they were eventually replaced, but they were actually what factored into this, which made it controversial. So we actually have like some reaction in here to actually provide a little bit more context and reaction from the Jersey PTA president. Said, parents have more information now than they had before, so they're actually supportive of this. It actually shows them a little bit of like, what this is all about. Like, tries to give you an idea like whether again you get the best bang for your buck. But then other people have actually like complained about it. The Jersey School Board Association said a single number or letter grade by itself draws an incomplete picture of school performance and the quality of education provided to its students. Okay, so so that's the opposing point of view. So that's like all reaction, all to try to kind of put this all into like the right context. Okay, so I got a little bit of getting a little bit of a lag here. All right, so and then I know this is probably awful to some of you here, but all of you maybe because this is like maybe a little bit too private, but we actually will report like also the places schools actually that have like the most alcohol and drug cases. I mean, this is all like stuff that parents feel like they need to know, and then like there's even some commentary in there, like basically about like perhaps why those school districts are where they are. Yeah, it's Wordle. And then you got the property tax bill list. I mean, that's nothing really essentially controversial in that, but basically, again, the whole idea is that it provides a list of like the schools with all the highest taxes and everything. But all the controversy is actually that actually I shouldn't say that actually that schools are actually again, the whole thing with like getting bang for your buck. Are you paying enough money, or what? Are you paying the right amount of money for like what you're getting out of your education, that sort of thing? Should you be paying taxes for students' education if you don't have kids or something? It's been controversial because the state actually provides funding for these school districts, and when they don't provide enough funding, then they typically have to raise their property taxes. So that's actually, you can see some a little bit of Murphy there basically explaining that. So that's some of the reaction and context that I was talking about. Okay. All right. And now we got ng.com is now also hit. ng.com did the same thing. I was going to show you that too. All these links are actually in the assignment itself. This actually shows like the lowest property taxes in each county. So how about we just get rid of that too? Because you have a link to it. And wow, it's going really slow. Okay, so let's just wait for that to like stop a little bit, I hope. Okay, yeah, it's gone. Goodbye. All right, so that's all those links are right there. You can see that each story identifies a trend, provides a little detail on the trend, such as what the list means, who was at the top of the list, how the list was developed. I'll even say that. That's important too, because again, that's actually attribution. Where did the information come from? The school, the New Jersey Department of Education actually has a list where they show people where they can actually allow reporters and general public actually dig up this information right online. All this stuff is readily online now, obviously, so it's you don't even necessarily need a story, but the whole idea of a journalism story is it actually kind of brings it to you. It brings what's maybe not so easily accessible and makes it accessible. That's the whole point of really like journalism and why we do what we do, is to make things accessible. Okay. To basically make things that like easy to get, easy to find. Okay. So here's the typical structure, and this is like using the New Jersey school district's example. Okay. How it would typically do. So what you do is you typically do when you have your lead that basically basically identifies the trend. And that's all it really does. And here you can see it says more than 300 school districts had more than 50 substance abuse cases, okay, in this 2016 to 17, according to state reports, okay. All right, so that's basically it. Just basically identifies the trend. Straight lead, nothing fancy about it, just basically as straight as possible. Okay, and then you have your then you have essentially in this story, you don't necessarily have anecdotes so much as you have transitions. Transition answers the first question: what does this list mean? Okay, what is it? Maybe there's something a little bit, we can like talk a little bit about the list. Why is there a trend? Like maybe there's like certain school districts that stick out for their high number of cases. That sort of thing. Maybe there's certain school districts that also had like a bigger increase in other years or something like that in other schools, and it's like a little bit crazy. And then we get a reaction from those who were impacted, or maybe those who are behind the scenes actually pulling the strings of this and everything. So, and then we have maybe an anecdote. That's where maybe we have an anecdote where we come with the reaction. Maybe somebody who actually feels like they need to express how this kind of impacts them. Okay. So this type of journalism, like I said, has become increasingly popular in the digital age, bringing about the creation and ensuing popularity of sites like Yelp, because as you know, Yelp and Letterboxd, they'll print like the top 10 restaurants, top 100 restaurants, whatever, top 10 restaurants in New Brunswick. All this stuff is like making lists is something that helps guide people through. Maybe like when they do like kind of visits, when they want to find a place to live, all those sorts of things, if they want to find a movie to watch. So yeah. I did a video with David Willis, a reporter and a columnist for the Azure Press last year. Basically, we talk about like the importance of this list. I like you to watch it. It's not mandatory, but it's actually something that, I call it a guest speaker. It's something that maybe will provide you like with some, again, some context, some ideas for like actually doing this story. Okay. So here's what I need you to do for this data journalism assignment. A lot to unpack here, so please read all the way through. Please find through Google information on Rutgers tuition hikes. Okay. Over the last 5 years, I found them. Whatever you find will be the lead of your theme of your story. So you have to basically identify the number of times Rutgers has actually raised tuition over the last 5 years and identify that trend. What is it? It's once, twice, three, four, 5 times out of 5. And that's what you have to write about. Okay. And then you want to have to write a 500 to 800 word story using a straight lead. Okay. And you're going to frame your story's theme around what happened during those 5 years. So the Rutgers tuition increased each year over the last 5 years. Did it increase 1 year but stay the same over 4? I strongly encourage you to do this early. Okay, start working on this early and then report to me what you found. I'm going to give you 2 weeks to do this, but I really would like you to actually kind of work with me on this, not just like, again, like wait till the last minute, say like, I couldn't find such and such. Okay, this computer's been going a little slowly, so I'm actually going to some of this stuff is like, it shouldn't be that hard to find. All you have to do is basically do Rutgers, tuition, 2022, maybe 23 increase. Just put in the right, search terms that you would typically put in for like any kind of search. Maybe Rutgers tuition, the year, an increase. Okay, so I talk a lot about it in my digital media class. And look, here's a press release that has it all there. And what's good about this press release is that this actually has what I'm going to ask you to do is also not just report the trend, but also identify why Rutgers did raise tuition when it did, okay? Or maybe why it didn't raise the tuition when it did, okay? And they have actually like reasonings here. So I'd like you to actually kind of like peruse through this information here and actually use this as like some of the substance for your story to actually kind of help build your story, okay? The Rutgers, like I said, okay, it's always best, to get information from the horse's mouth. So I strongly urge you to do a simple Google search and do Rutgers tuition increase, or maybe along with the year. Okay. And it's really better. I'm actually opening this up to you guys. You don't have to use just the Rutgers news releases. You can actually use a legitimate, respectable news source. I'm actually putting patch in that, haha. But to actually report that information, but you have to make sure that you attribute that information. Otherwise, it's plagiarism. Okay. You have to make sure you attribute that information to whatever source you got it from. Okay. So if you got it from Rutgers, say you got it from Rutgers, okay? Rutgers Public Information, whatever they call it, Rutgers News Service. If you got it from NordJersey.com, say that. If you got it from NG.com, say that, okay? What I want you to do is to get it from a website that doesn't get it from the sources, the horse's mouth. last year I had to like tell people, look, no college tuition compare. Okay, that's not, that's not how you do it. That's essentially hearsay. You don't go to a website that's just kind of like out of nowhere. Okay, they might have even gotten it wrong. I've seen that happen a number of times where these places just get their information wrong. Okay, maybe they didn't look at it right. Maybe they didn't get the number right. Whatever. Okay, just don't go to like some sort of a secondhand website. Okay, you have to actually go to a place that actually has the information and got it from the horse's mouth. Okay. So in the lead of your story, you need to attribute this tuition information to a source or sources. Okay. So you have to make sure you say according to Rutgers news university news releases or according to Rutgers news releases and media reports. You can even say that too, media reports, if you got it from more than one media report. Okay. Just make sure you let me know where you got it from. Okay. And as I noted earlier, once you identify the theme, provide some explanation below the lead. Okay. Basically, like again, like usually from Rutgers press release, they say why they did what they did. So that provides some of the context you'll need. Okay. Please address why these tuition increases were made and identify where the information came from. Again, we've talked about that. Okay. And once you identify that trend, okay, and you explain why they came up with the increases or maybe why they didn't come up with the increases or whatever, I want you to get 2 to 3 reactions from students lower, and you put that lower in your story, much like we've done. So that's like actually in this particular case, this is not a story about reaction. Okay. This is like the opposite of the what do you call the COVID mask mandate. Actually, the reaction is not the story. The reaction actually is actually the subset of the story. It's the less important stuff. So, but it's all part of the story too, like getting reaction. So I want you to actually put that in the story and put it lower. It's the priority here is actually the numbers and how and the impact they had on people and why they did what they did. Okay. The lesser priority here, but still part of the same story, is the reaction to it. Okay, and why is it still important to the story, but that we put in there? Because it's all part of the world of tuition and like how people are dealing with it and all that sort of thing. And it's whether people accept it or not and that sort of thing. The who, it's all part of the who, what, where, why, when, how, when. Okay. Um. So yes. So that's what we do there. Um. And I'm going to be posting a discussion point. It says I posted a discussion point. I'll be doing that. Please participate. Of course, again, that's also like the class participation again. So, basically when you get that information, you'll see, and then basically I want you to actually, and then of course, people when they contribute to the discussion points, talk about like, is this when you put your student hat on? Okay. You're not a reporter, and you basically say like this is and I can't afford this. It's gone up so much. I thought Rutgers would be a state school, and there would be a lot more affordable, and it's not, blah, blah, blah. So basically, we talk about that, put your name there, the whole thing. Okay. And then, like I said, please provide. Then at the bottom of the story, this is where you typically do it. You can put it really anywhere in the story, but this you actually provide a list. And again, like I showed you before, this is where people like use their searchable, opportunities to basically see like like okay, well, when did it increase, or where do we, I mean, there's going to be a list of only 5 items, so it's not going to be that hard to find stuff, but basically you want to like you want to get you want to give people like the actual list so people can actually see like for themselves what that trend was. Okay. And basically, it's probably one of the things you also want to mention in your story is probably like what's the biggest increase that's happened over the last 5 years. Okay. That was the year that they sucked us the hardest. What was the smallest increase where maybe they gave everybody a bit of a break? Okay. So that's all part of the larger context. It's layers of the story that you don't find in the single source story that we did the very first time. Okay. So that last 5 years would be 2018 and 2019 going on to, and then they have the latest one. Actually, it's up for this year, which is 2022, 2023. Okay. And this will be due on November 7th. Okay. Oh, November 7th. I'm sorry, not November 7th. Oops. Oh, wait, actually, it is a good deal with November 7th. I'm sorry. This is due 2 weeks from now. I'm thinking of the rewrite. Okay. All right. So that's that assignment. Okay. And just for a moment, I'm just going to stop the share. Um, and okay, so there is actually a chapter that I actually have asked you guys to read. And let me go to that right now. And it's investigative reporting. Like I said, this is not necessarily true investigative reporting. In fact, what you just did actually with the Bill Borden assignment was probably like actually more of like investigative reporting. But basically, like it is kind of along those lines because the whole idea is actually getting those additional layers that you go beyond just like the breaking news. You put things in a larger context. So news reporting can be very reactive or proactive. For example, something happens, a natural disaster, a plane crash, they publish stories on who, what, where. Okay. But, you know, news organizations do that reactive reporting, but an investigative story is not tied to an event. That's how this is similar because it's not necessarily tied to an event. Okay. You basically are trying to find like something that goes beyond with depth. Okay. Um, Again, you're not necessarily like digging up some sort of conspiracy or something like that, but you do have the layers of getting the reaction from the from Rutgers and also the reaction from the students. Okay. Um, all right. Just kind of flipping through here. Developing an investigative story, basically, like it's like we just did. You don't essentially have like interview people from their mouths or something like that. You get like documents, that sort of thing. You have to like basically again additional sources, and you have to attribute it to those actual sources. There's internet online databases, and that have this information. Like I was showing you before, all that stuff was actually it came from internet databases, all that stuff about like the school grades, and all that stuff. So and then of course says the reporters actually will then find sources for maybe. If I was going to have you do an investigative story about Rutgers tuition increases, I mean maybe I would probably give you like an entire semester, and basically have you like maybe trying to, you know, uh, maybe maybe there was some sort of budget, creative accounting going on or something like that. Doubt it, but that kind of thing. You have to basically have some sort of like planning. You have to have like, like a whole like they'll actually put it like on an investigative. They'll actually like if you've ever, I think you guys ever seen The Wire or something like that, or TV shows like that, or cop shows. They'll put like actual board of Sopranos where they'll show like almost like sort of a diagram of like who leads to who, that sort of thing. So you almost have to like kind of build a case when you do that sort of thing. Um, you know, um, I mean, the structure again, it's like layers. It's like more like just not just like one thing. It's like several like it's the data, it's the reasoning, and then it's also the reaction usually. Okay, that goes into all that stuff. Okay, um, operational documents, disclosure documents. I mean, the documents. This information you're getting from here. The documents are just really just the press releases or the news reports that you're going to get information from. Okay. Um, you would develop sources, okay? And actually, that's the interesting thing about sources is because I've talked to you before about like actually like how off the record, on the record. I mean, what we're doing in this class is essentially on the record, but a lot of investigations are actually done with off the record sourcing. If I was actually to have you actually do like a story about like Rutgers tuition. Maybe I heard, maybe I got you put out, maybe you look for tips and that sort of thing. And you try to find maybe like people who actually like, might know something a little bit more than like, what meets the eye. Maybe what was more actually than in the press release. Maybe there was something they like made a mistake in their budgeting or something like that. Maybe it goes back to the state and their funding, and maybe they gave a little too much to one district because that district was particularly supportive of the governor or something like that. So you put things together like that. Again, context, reasoning that goes beyond just like what's the stated word. Okay. All right. And then like it says here, like maybe like you could find like people like through social media when you do um, research, that sort of thing. Of course, statistics are always a big part of it, and that's what we're doing right here. Numbers matter. Numbers matter. Okay. Statistics also appear in news stories concerning budgets, taxes, census data. Sorry, sports, politics. I mean, reporters. This is how reporters make stories nowadays. They use statistics. Okay. All right. So yeah. So I mean, and then it goes back into like some of the like old stories that were done. But again, that's just really to kind of help provide you some context into like basically how these stories are developed. Okay. All right, so that's all I have for you guys now. Okay, so um, let me know if you have any questions, and then, like I said, I'll have another discussion point, and please, and so please contribute. So thanks very much, guys, and I will be talking to you.